So look around the room you are in right now. Like, really focus on the physical space between you and the wall.
Right, which is actually kind of hard to do.
It is. We are so conditioned to think of that space as just, nothingness. It's just empty air, the void where stuff isn't. But what if that nothing is actually the most something thing in the room?
I love that framing.
Yeah, what if the empty space around you isn't a vacuum at all, but entirely full?
I mean, it requires a massive shift in perspective to look at empty space and see actual substance.
Hmm.
We are inherently biased toward the tangible.
Oh, absolutely.
We value the physical objects we can bump into,
Yep.
the things we can measure with a ruler or, weigh on a scale. So to suggest that the void itself has architecture, well, it completely flips our default setting.
And that shift in perspective is exactly what brings us to today's deep dive. We are digging into a single, highly thought-provoking source today.
Yes, a YouTube video transcript.
Exactly, from the channel True Awakening with Thabang. And our mission here is to explore this ancient cross-cultural concept of the ether.
The fifth element.
Right, sitting right alongside water, fire, air, and earth. We're going to examine how the speaker connects this deeply spiritual idea to modern quantum physics, and honestly, more importantly, to the practical realities of your daily life.
Which is, frankly, an incredibly ambitious bridge to build.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, attempting to connect ancient mystical traditions directly to the way we behave on a random Tuesday morning requires a very specific analytical framework. And the video handles it in a rather unexpected way.
I found the approach genuinely surprising, to be honest. Whether you consider yourself a hard-nosed skeptic, a quantum physics buff, or someone who is just spiritually curious, this deep dive is going to challenge your definition of what a vacuum actually is.
For sure.
The source material starts by tracing the history of the ether, and the universality of this concept across completely disconnected cultures is, well, it's hard to ignore.
The historical through line is undeniable. The transcript points out that long before mainstream science adopted the word ether in a chemical context, ancient traditions already had their own vocabulary for this exact same phenomenon.
Right.
Like, in ancient Indian philosophy, it was known as akasha.
Akasha, okay.
Yeah, which translates broadly to space or sky, but specifically denotes this all-pervading field that serves as the foundation for all the other elements.
And you see the exact same foundational logic in ancient Greece, too. They called it quintessence.
Literally the fifth essence.
Exactly. They believed it was the pure, uncorrupted substance of the heavens, the material that filled the universe above our terrestrial sphere.
Right.
And the video also brings in African cosmology, which has long held an understanding of this invisible force. They describe it as a living fabric, or a breath that acts as the universal glue holding all disparate things together.
What's fascinating here is how humanity continually renames the exact same phenomenon.
Yeah.
The video explicitly honors what is called the law of correspondence. It's the ancient maxim of as above, so below.
Right, I've heard that.
Yeah, the creator makes a deliberate point to value both the seen, empirical world and the unseen spiritual world without viewing them as contradictory. According to this framework, the physicist and the mystic are simply looking at the exact same fabric through two different lenses.
But the collision between that scientific lens and the spiritual lens is where the historical narrative gets a bit dramatic. I mean, if we jump forward to the 19th century, mainstream scientists actually believed in the ether.
They did. They called it the luminiferous ether.
Which is just a great phrase. And the underlying logic made perfect sense at the time. Just like a wave in the ocean mechanically requires water to ripple through,
Right.
and sound requires air to travel through, they figured light needed a physical medium to move through the vacuum of space.
It was a mechanical necessity for their understanding of classical physics. If light was a wave, well, something had to be waving.
Exactly. But most of us know how that chapter ended in 1887 with the famous Michelson-Morley experiment. They set out to measure the ether wind.
The drag of the Earth moving through this invisible medium.
Right. And they found absolutely zero evidence of it. Because of that null result, mainstream science essentially throws its hands up, abandons the ether entirely, and declares that space is just a sterile, empty void.
But Sabing's transcript makes a fascinating counter-argument right here. The source argues that science didn't actually disprove the existence of a fundamental medium.
Wait, really?
Yeah, they simply failed to understand its true, non-mechanical nature with the crude tools they had in 1887.
Ah, okay.
They were looking for a physical drag, like wind against a sail.
Yeah.
When they didn't find the wind, they just assumed there was no air.
So the video is suggesting that the 1887 conclusion was just premature?
Precisely. Because if we fast forward to modern quantum physics, the concept of a sterile vacuum has been completely overturned. Quantum physicists have discovered what they call the zero-point field. Even at absolute zero, where all thermal energy is removed, the vacuum of space is not empty.
It's not.
No, it is literally boiling with quantum fluctuations. It's this massive baseline of potential energy where virtual particles just pop in and out of existence.
Wow.
And the video makes the case that this zero-point field, this invisible, energetic foundation of reality, is the exact same concept as the ancient ether, just wrapped in modern mathematical branding.
It's like we just gave an ancient concept a modern PR spin. To visualize how the source explains this, I keep coming back to the idea of a cosmic Wi-Fi network.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, the speaker gives this incredibly relatable example. You're sitting on your couch, you think of a specific person you haven't spoken to in months, and suddenly your phone rings and it's them.
Happens all the time.
Exactly. The source argues that's not a mere statistical coincidence. That is the ether carrying information across an invisible, highly conductive web. Just like you can't see the Wi-Fi signal in your house, but you rely on the data it carries constantly, we are perpetually interacting with the ether.
If we accept the premise that the zero-point field or the ether is a highly conductive medium, then human thoughts and intentions are essentially the data packets moving across that network.
Yes.
But the transcript doesn't just leave this as some abstract cosmological theory. It brings the entire concept directly down into our physical biology.
Okay, hold on, because we just jumped from 19th century physics and quantum vacuum fluctuations to ancient chakras.
We did.
How does the transcript actually justify putting those two things in the same biological framework? Like, where is my biological router to connect to this cosmic Wi-Fi?
Well, the video locates that interface at the throat chakra. In many Eastern traditions, the human body has energetic centers, and the throat chakra is the specific center associated with sound, voice, expression, and the communication of truth.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the source references that famous ancient phrase, "In the beginning was the word."
Right, a very common text.
But the speaker interprets that phrase mechanistically, not metaphorically. They argue that the word was a physical vibration, and that vibration fundamentally needed a medium to move through to create reality.
Exactly.
And that medium is the ether. Wait, so the source is saying that our physical voice is literally the bridge between our internal thoughts and this external zero-point field. How does that actually work mechanically?
The mechanical link the video builds here is actually quite elegant. Think about the anatomy of the throat. It houses the larynx and the vocal cords.
Right.
This is the biological site where invisible breath from your lungs is converted into physical, measurable acoustic waves.
Oh, wow.
So the source is arguing that before anything physical can be created or manifested in the external world, it must first be spoken or vibrated into existence. Vibration is the physical disturbance that activates the potential energy of the zero-point field.
So the physical voice is literally the bridge. Talking isn't just a way to pass information to another human being. It's literally pinging the network.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the video is framing human expression as a profound act of physical creation within a highly responsive environment. You aren't just making noise. You're sending a physical, organizing wave through a conductive medium.
Which is a beautiful, poetic idea until you really sit with the terrifying implication of that.
It is a bit daunting.
Right, because if the ether is this highly conductive, ever-present medium for our vibrations, and our vocal cords and thoughts are constantly activating it, we have to deeply analyze the specific vibrations we are broadcasting into the room every single day.
The source makes a firm, unyielding point on this exact issue. Your thoughts are not entirely private, and your intentions are constantly being broadcast.
Everything goes out.
Exactly. The energetic state you hold in your nervous system, the narratives you repeatedly loop in your mind, the literal words you speak into the atmosphere, they do not just evaporate into a void, they are actively rippling through the ether.
And the really crucial detail Thabang adds is that the ether does not possess a moral compass.
None at all.
It does not judge the broadcast. It is completely impartial. It simply receives the vibration, amplifies it, and reflects it back.
Right.
The transcript argues that if you move through life vibrating with fear, the field simply responds by organizing experiences, people, and circumstances that match the frequency of that fear. But if you broadcast love or genuine intention, the field organizes reality around that specific signal instead.
The creator of the video is very careful to clarify that this dynamic is not about superstition or magical thinking. It is fundamentally about responsibility.
That makes sense.
The transcript notes that this mechanical understanding is exactly why our ancient ancestors relied so heavily on rituals, chants, and communal ceremonies. They were not just being primitive or superstitious, they were operating sophisticated spiritual technology.
Wow, early frequency technology.
Exactly. They understood the mechanics of the ether and were actively working to calibrate their communal frequency to broadcast a unified, intentional signal into the field.
Reframing ancient rituals like that completely changes how you view history. But taking that level of responsibility for our own minute-to-minute broadcasting today, well, it feels incredibly daunting.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
Especially for you listening right now, likely commuting, working, or just surrounded by the constant, relentless noise of modern life. If every anxious thought is a ripple in the ether, we're all in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, we are.
But the video offers a surprising pivot here. It claims that the deepest dimension of the ether isn't actually sound or active vibration at all. It's silence.
Yes, but the speaker redefines our modern understanding of silence.
How so?
We typically define silence negatively as merely the absence of noise. The video argues that silence is actually a positive presence. It is the presence of pure, unadulterated awareness. It's the vast, open, awake baseline of the field itself.
I really appreciate the framing here because the video insists that you don't need to travel to a Himalayan mountaintop to access this baseline. You don't need an enlightened teacher, a specific temple, or a complex esoteric tradition. You just need a willingness to sit in the silence you already occupy and drop beneath the constant looping static of your own mind.
It's so accessible.
They literally recommend starting with just 5 minutes. 5 minutes of genuine, intentional stillness. No phone, no background music, no to-do lists. Just allowing yourself to sink into that open space.
It's a profound point because it entirely demystifies the spiritual experience.
Yeah.
The ether isn't some distant cosmic cloud you have to reach. It is the very space in which you are sitting right now.
Already in it.
You're already immersed in it.
Yeah.
The 5 minutes of stillness is not an attempt to achieve enlightenment. It is simply a practical method to stop splashing around in the water so you can finally feel the current.
Okay, let's unpack this practical application a bit more because understanding that we are immersed in this highly responsive field is one thing, but actually managing our interaction with it requires a strategy. The transcript breaks down 3 specific, actionable behavioral protocols for consciously working with the ether in everyday life.
These protocols act as a behavioral toolkit for the modern mind, specifically designed to help us manage both our outgoing broadcast and our incoming reception.
The first protocol focuses heavily on the outgoing broadcast, guiding your words. The speaker says if the ether is the medium of creation, then what you speak is quite literally what you sow.
Words are seeds.
Exactly. They urge the listener to stop speaking their internal fears out loud as if they are inevitable prophecy, and to stop rehearsing their limitations as if they are unbreakable laws.
The operative concept the video leans on here is that words are seeds, and the source makes a rather sobering point regarding the mechanics of the field. The ether does not possess a sense of irony.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah. It cannot distinguish between a statement made in jest and a statement made with serious intent. It only registers the raw frequency of the vibration.
That is a brutal reality check. Because, I mean, how many times a day do we jokingly say, oh, I'm definitely going to fail this presentation, or my life is a complete disaster right now?
All the time.
We think we're just blowing off steam or being self-deprecating, but the ether just hears the frequency of failure and disaster and essentially says, message received, coming right up.
Precisely. If you constantly broadcast self-deprecation, the field simply registers the limitation and structurally delivers on it. Therefore, guiding your words requires implementing strict quality control on your daily broadcast.
Which naturally leads to the problem of receiving a signal back. If you are constantly broadcasting, either through speaking or just the mental chatter of anxiety, your internal channel is completely jammed.
It's just static.
Right. And the video addresses this with its second protocol, the absolute necessity of cultivating inner space. The argument is that space is not wasted time, which is, how our productivity-obsessed culture usually views it.
Oh, for sure. If you're not doing something, you're wasting time.
Exactly. Instead, space is the necessary void where intuitive downloads happen, where sudden clarity arises, and where actual guidance can meet you.
From an engineering perspective, if the field is continually trying to reflect information back to you, but your receiver is clogged with the constant static of daily noise, you will simply never hear the signal.
So how do we fix it?
The video suggests highly practical ways to clear the receiver, dedicating time to morning silence, engaging in evening reflections, or, and I found this particularly elegant in its simplicity, taking 3 conscious breaths before reacting to any external stimulus.
I want to highlight that specific tactic for you listening right now. Taking 3 conscious breaths before reacting to a frustrating email or a stressful comment is such a brilliant, low-barrier insight.
It really is.
You don't need to be a Zen master or have an hour to meditate. You just need 3 breaths to mechanically interrupt the automatic loop of your nervous system. It creates a tiny pocket of inner space, a little buffer of ether, right in the middle of a chaotic day.
It artificially inserts a pause between the stimulus you encounter and the response you give. And neurologically speaking, that pause is where conscious choice actually resides.
But even if you master your words and carve out those quiet pauses, you eventually hit the hardest part of the process, which is the third protocol the video outlines, trusting what you cannot see.
Yeah, this is the tough one.
The speaker openly acknowledges that this is by far the most difficult hurdle for the modern, empirically trained mind. We are obsessed with immediate proof.
We want the data.
Right, we want metrics, we want a visible guarantee that our efforts are working before we fully commit to the process.
This raises an important question about how we define evidence and causality. Impartially speaking, the video is positing that the ether fundamentally operates on the rhythm of faith.
Faith, okay.
However, they're very careful to distinguish this mechanism from blind, dogmatic faith. They frame it instead as conscious trust. The analogy the source uses is the act of planting a seed in the ground.
Right, you put the seed underground, completely in the dark.
Yes. You cannot see the germination process happening. You have absolutely zero empirical visual data that anything is occurring beneath the soil. But you provide water to the soil anyway.
You have to act in alignment with the growth before you see the visible results of the growth.
Exactly. The transcript treats this conscious trust not as a religious moral imperative, but as a strict mechanical requirement to interact with an invisible field.
That's a huge distinction.
Consider the logic. If the field perfectly reflects your broadcast, and you only broadcast doubt and skepticism because you lack immediate visual proof, the field will faithfully reflect that doubt back to you as stagnation.
Wow.
The state of trust itself is the specific frequency required to initiate the manifestation process in the ether.
So what does this all mean? If we pull all these disparate threads together from this deep dive, the ancient cosmological wisdom, the modern quantum vacuum fluctuations, the biological interface of the vocal cords, and these practical protocols for managing our broadcasts, it distills down to a massive, life-altering paradigm shift.
It really does.
According to Thabang's transcript, you are not living in a random, sterile, disconnected universe where you are just an isolated biological machine bumping into dead objects. You are constantly existing within a living, highly intelligent, and deeply responsive field of energy.
And the creator of the video offers a profoundly comforting philosophical thought to close out their argument.
Oh.
They assert that because the ether is an all-pervading foundational fabric, it actually holds the indelible memory of everything that has ever passed through it.
That's beautiful.
It is. Every genuine prayer ever whispered, every tear ever shed in frustration, and every solitary moment of courage you have chosen when no one else was watching. The source insists that you are constantly held, heard, and connected, even in moments when you feel completely isolated, because the invisible field is always present and always recording.
The network never actually goes down. It's just waiting for you to intentionally tune in.
Exactly.
Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with today. Something to just chew on as you go about the rest of your week.
Let's hear it.
If the empty space around us is actually a physical, conductive archive holding the memory of every spoken word and every emotional vibration, as this deep dive suggests, how does that change the way you walk into an empty room? Is it ever truly empty? Or are you constantly swimming through the invisible, vibrating echoes of everyone who has ever stood exactly where you are standing right now? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Carry that awareness into your day, and we will see you next time.